Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this video, let's discuss the API testing fundamentals along with interview questions and answers. Okay, guys, I have uploaded this PDF in the interview preparation kit. Please do check out for the link in the comment section or also in the description box. Okay, let's get started. So initially, let's start with the basics of API testing. So what is an API testing? An API is nothing but an application programming interface, allows communication between software components. It defines rules and protocols for accessing a web-based software application. Okay, then what is an API testing mean then? It is a type of software testing that validates APIs directly to ensure they return correct responses for various requests and inputs. So what are the different types of APIs? You can see there are four different types of APIs: open APIs, which are public; partner APIs, which are restricted; internal APIs, which are private; and composite APIs, which are combine multiple APIs. Okay, and then what are the different protocols are used in API testing? HTTP, HTTPS, SOAP, REST, GraphQL, WebSocket, JMS, and many other. Okay, and then the next topic is about what are RESTful APIs, what are HTTP methods, and the next question is about what is an HTTP status code and what are the different types of HTTP status code which we frequently come across during working environment, and what are the headers in API, what is a payload in API, what are the tools used for API testing, what is a schema validation, what is a base URI in API testing, what is an endpoint, what is a query parameter and path parameter, what is a JSON and why it is used, what is the response time in API testing, what is rate limiting, what is API throttling, what are negative test cases in API testing, and what is a postman. Okay, this is the next section where we are going to discuss about the postman and collections. What is a postman? What is a postman collection? What is a collection runner? What is an environment in postman? What are global variables in postman? How to write test scripts in postman? How to use pre-request script in postman? How to test response body in postman? How to set dynamic variables in postman? How to pass data from CSV in Postman, what is a Newman, how to run Newman command, can we integrate Postman or Newman with continuous integration tools, what is a monitor in Postman, how to validate response time, can we chain API calls in Postman, how to handle authentications, what is a dynamic data testing, can Postman validate JSON schema, what is a Postman sandbox? Box. How do you validate response data in API testing? What is the difference between 401 and 403? How do you handle token expiration in API tests? What is a mock server in API testing? And the next topic is about the real-time scenarios, errors and validations. Okay, let's get started. What is the difference between put and patch? What is a contract testing? What is the use of Swagger? What are the main components in a REST request? How do you validate API pagination? How to test file upload API? How to test API rate limiting? What is response caching? What is CORS? What's the difference between synchronous and asynchronous API? What is an API gateway? How to validate date and time fields in APIs? How to ensure API security during testing? What is idempotency in APIs? What is an API key and how it is different from bearer token? How do you validate API locks and traces? What is rest assured? What is the structure of a rest assured test? How to test rest headers using rest assured? What is the BDD framework in API testing? What is Karate DSL? Okay. What is the use of assertions in API automation? What is schema validation in rest assured? What are data driven tests in API automation? What's the difference between manual and automated API testing? What are the common assertions in API automation? What are the tools used for API performance testing? What is a parallel execution in API testing? Okay, so this is the next topic where we are going to discuss about the automation tools and frameworks. What is a parallel execution in API testing? How do you generate reports in API automation? How do you mock APIs during automation? What are flaky tests in API automation? How to handle dynamic values in API responses? What is a JSON path? How to run API tests in CI/CD pipeline? How to handle large payloads in testing? How to version APIs and test them? And the next set of interview questions are based on advanced and real-time experience based. What is a backward compatibility in API and how to test it? How do you handle chained API requests in testing? How do you test API dependencies? That's the microservices. Okay, what is hypermedia as the engine of application state in Rust? And what is the difference between JSON and XML in API testing? How do you test GraphQL APIs and REST APIs? How do you manage environments in API testing tools? What is the role of API documentation in testing? What is latency testing in APIs? What is an API sandbox? How do you validate retry mechanisms in APIs? How do you test for data integrity in APIs? What is the best way to test multi-language APIs? What are some good API testing practices? What is an API probe test? What is the difference between integration testing and API testing? What is a schema drift and how do you detect it? What is synthetic monitoring for APIs? How do you test APIs that interact with databases? What are the common API testing challenges you have faced? Okay, so yeah, that's all guys. Let me know if you have any queries or questions in the comment section or and also in the Gmail. I have given this PDF in the interview preparation kit. Please do check out. The interview preparation kit link is provided in the description box and also in the comment section. Okay, so thank you so much for watching my video. All the best for your upcoming interview. Okay, happy learning, happy testing.